complaining about the Green Levy, everything that we're coughing out for the government. And it got me wanting to do more. It inspired me to do more for my community. So I met Paul, who in his own right is like a think tank in himself, very clever. And he said, Greg, why don't you come and help us with reform? In doing so, I've met some amazing people. I've met Bente, I've met John, Gaynor, Joe. Joe's promised me to shred a few pounds in the camera, so make sure I look good, Joe. But it's meant that I've got to meet some lovely people in Somerset. And there's a family in Somerset that I met quite recently, who quite recently, like everybody here, has opened up their envelopes and they've received their council tax, thinking, crikey, that's gone up. But what they didn't realise is that the Liberal Democrats want to increase their council tax by 11%. Not only did they want to increase your council tax by 11%, but they then found out that they were selling off assets that belong to the people of Somerset.
Can we go click?
To make matters even worse, they then found out that the Liberal Democrats have been given £30 million in emergency funding, which sounds great, until they find out that that £30 million is borrowed money. Borrowed money, and it's more debt. So as we move forward, it's up to you guys to make that choice. This is a really easy campaign and a decision for all of us.
No clue.
We can carry on in this path of destruction with the Liberal Democrats. You could vote for the Conservatives, but if you vote for the Conservatives, you still get the Liberal Democrats. Now's the time to change. Now's the time to vote for reform. Because with reform, you do get councillors like these two here, myself if I'm elected, who will fight to cut the waste, who will vote and will fight to think of the local people and the local priorities. And that's why I'm here, for your vote and everyone on the camera today. So thank you very much for coming here today. And thank you very much for John and Bente, who's both here to answer all of your questions, and I appreciate your support.
Okay, here you go.
That's great, Greg. Thanks a lot for that. So, a lot of problems in Somerset, on the council and in the area, and a lot of challenges. And so we move to a question and answer session with essentially now what is our panel, John Cook-Woodman, Bente Hyde and Greg Stone. And I will ask the first question, and it's just to all of you, or any of you, or one of you, whoever wants to answer. What is the uppermost thing on your mind at the moment on Somerset Council? What's the biggest challenge? If anything keeps you awake at night, what is it? Bente.
The lack of funding, the lack of money, the waste of money. Sorry, I'm good at shouting. It is lack of money. It is the wasteful way they are treating money. They can never, ever, ever find the money to cover the debts they are in. And they made it what it is. Just like they did with Mendip when they closed down Mendip District Council, that was close to going bankrupt as well. They're wasteful, they got too many employees, and they think they can just give them 25% increase every year.
John.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's true. You've got to run an authority, a council, properly, and you've got to make sure that every pound you get in, you make use of. You spend it because, you pay a lot of money in council tax, and you expect good services. Now, I've run an authority. I ran the Devon and Somerset Fire and Rescue Authority, which is a £95 million organisation. The first day I was in there, I said, I want to know what projects you've got on the go, how many of them are fully funded, how long they've been going on, how many of them have got authority approval, so I know how the operation of that organisation is going. And I feel like the Liberal Democrats haven't got that. They haven't got a grip or a knowledge how to run things. None of them are running businesses or anything like that. And they don't have that sort of acronym, that acute way of looking at something as a business to make sure that you get the procurement right when you buy something, you get the contractors right when you want to do a job, and you have the oversight, the project management to make sure that when it's done on time and it's done on budget and it's done as a good quality. It's those kinds of things that Liberal Democrats don't have the skill to do. And if we make the next administration, as I believe we will do with reform, we'll run it properly.
Okay.
I think for me, it's the way they're spending their money. Quite recently, we found out that they were spending £730,000 on a cycle track. Is that living within our means? So I'd like to actually see the Liberal Democrats spending their money, living within our means and actually prioritising what's important to the community.
What about the use of consultants? I mean, people say to me, and I don't have the hard figures, but that they spend a lot of money on consultants in order to tell them how to do things, or whether they should do things that they themselves ought to be able to figure out and manage.
Yeah, I mean, if you're incompetent, the first thing you do if you've got a problem is you think, I know, I'll hire a consultant and they'll solve that problem for me. And then I can say that I solved that problem. That's the best way to do it. Now, I'm not saying there isn't a place for consultants, because if you need a specialist to do a particular job, you don't want to have them on the books for all year. You want to have them for a couple of weeks or two. So you use specialists as consultants to do certain jobs. Yeah, that's true. But there's a culture of the first stop being consultants. And now we've got a situation where we're spending something like £20 million on consultants. And that's just not the way to manage a business.
Right, we've got a first question here from our guests.
Richard Harbour. Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for doing this job, because we all know it's a very hard job. It's not going to be easy. Getting elected is going to be the easy bit. Sorting the problem out is going to be the really hard bit. So my question is, I don't normally urge people to be evangelical about cost saving and getting value for money, but I hear you're on that track there. But what? So sometimes we invest in a situation like, take for instance gutter repairs. The council pays a lot of money to contractors to have that done. If they were to invest in an internal solution that would be cheaper, maybe be cheaper, I don't know. I'm suggesting that. But what sort of things will you be doing to really get really push down, get more value for every pound that's spent? Because that's really what we're after. Because if you just cut things, then we lose services, and we desperately need the roads fixing. And I drive around Somerset all the time, and I drive at half the speed limit because I'm too scared to hit one of these massive white potholes. So what sort of evangelical things are you going to be doing to get better value for every pound that we spend?
Shall I go first since I've got the microphone? Well, I can tell you one thing I've done. When I was Cabinet Member for Highways and Transport, we had a situation where we got 700 school runs across this county, and you've got to make sure that every child is picked up and taken to school. You can't leave one on the side of the road, and it's a big job to make sure that happens every single day of the week. But what happens is contractors, and they're quite small, these coach operators, and nothing wrong with them whatsoever, but quite often they can't do the job for the amount of money they got, and what they do is they hand back the contract to you. Okay, and then you have to put it out bid again, and the rise in prices was running at about 19% a year. So what I did was I brought some of it in-house. So I started off an internal bus company inside Somerset County Council, so that if anybody handed their contract back, rather than us have to pay out another 20% the next year on a contract, or just then when we needed to get those kids to school, we could step in immediately. And we could save that. And what that also had the effect on was they didn't keep asking for more money, because they knew that I had the internal capability in the council to put a lid on that increasing expense. So that's something I've actually done when I was in charge of that, to make sure that what you're talking about that didn't happen.
Because that's it. It's the manipulation of the contracts by the contractors, because they know that if they do a little do this, do that, and do the other, and the council just caves in and goes, okay, we'll pay you more money because we have to provide this service, and that, you know, that's the way.
And you're so right, because before that we didn't have the choice.
Yes.
You know, and so I had to create that That
Yes.
what we called it. I can't remember what it called, big bus project or whatever it was called. Before that, we didn't have the choice, so we had to accept that.
Yes, that's
Because you couldn't leave the children at the side of the road, and there's a lot of that sort of thing that goes on there as well.
Well, I think that the Lib Dem, and it is their problem, they have created it. They do not know how to manage staff. So the staff runs the show. And that is what happened in Mendip. All of a sudden, everybody stopped working to their full potential because those who were in control, which was the Lib Dem, they did not know how to manage because they are not business people. They are just la-di-la, oh yeah, it's a lovely day, the sun is shining. And I'm sorry, that is what they're doing. And when you have sit in a council and you have seen how it can work, then it is terrible. And I, for one, can only say, give highways back to highway, make sure we can go back to Glastonbury Works and Atmos and things like that when they went out. In Shepton Mallet, our A37 or Wheatstone Road, when Frampton stopped running that way round but took a detour, they put down new asphalt on that bit of road. And that is the only road in Shepton that hasn't got a pothole because they use proper material and proper companies to do it.
And I think I quite agree with both of these two. It's about vetting people, making sure that we've got the right people to improve our road infrastructure. More money needs to be spent on our roads, especially around here. Strong leadership. We're a massive transport sector around here. We've got a lot of transport companies. So it's more important to invest in our roads.
Do you know that JCB is offering a pothole fixing JCB machine to any council that will ask for it, especially if they've got some reform councillors? You might want to follow up on that because I heard that at Reform National. JCB are very pro-reform.
Okay.
There's a gentleman over here, sir.
I was going to ask if we can be guaranteed that you're not going to be doing things you shouldn't do. Now, a good example of this, Mendip, I think it was £87 million they borrowed because it was so-called cheap money and invested in property. One property, I gather, has lost them £2 million. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that it really annoys me that councils start doing things they shouldn't do. We've already talked about the footpath, the 87 mile, whatever it is, footpath, whatever it is that they're it's nothing to do with the council. They should not be doing it. And I get very annoyed that councillors let these things go on. We should be getting basic things. Are you going to make sure that you keep to hardcore stuff and forget about all the rubbish? Because it's the rubbish that's costing us a lot of money.
It's the lack of competency, isn't it? It's getting involved in commercial property that they just did not have the competency to get involved with. And they entered at the top of the market, which was the worst possible time, and now they've lost money. They have got some decent properties, but mostly they've lost money.
And they employ consultants to run it.
And the consultants, when you add the consultants,
So well, I don't think we're needed, to be honest. I think that, and it's always the way, isn't it? Generally, the people of Somerset know what they're talking about. Apart from if they vote Liberal Democrat, of course. But no, you're quite right. When I was in Sedgemoor District Council, I spoke out about this on two levels. One is that you don't know what you're doing. You're not a property consultant. You're not a property firm. You're an authority that provides service, and you shouldn't be doing it. But there was another reason why, is because competition-wise, right, you can borrow money cheaply as a council, as an authority, more cheaply than a business can. So that if you're buying properties to rent out and make money, like district councils were, like Mendip District Council under Liberal Democrats were, whatever, you could you can borrow money cheaper than somebody who's doing it as a business. Well, that's not right. That's not capitalism. That's state intervention in a marketplace. And all you do then, if you're putting state money into a market, is you put the prices up, and things become more uncompetitive. So it was on a moral basis, I thought it was wrong, but also on a commercial basis, it was also wrong. So for me, it was doubly wrong.
Can I just say regarding borrowing money, I think the Lib Dem did actually running this Somerset District Council when they borrowed 30 million to invest. And that was a disaster. That was when Iceland said they were not going to repay any money back. They are doing it like that. Also, it's okay that they borrow money when they know how to get them back in again, and that has always been a problem. I would hope that nobody in a council would ever do that. But as long as we are a minority, we have got precious little power. We have got to have at least 40, as a minimum 40%. And then we can start scaring them to do what they should probably be doing, looking after taxpayers' money and making sure everything is okay. That is their job.
And only doing hardcore.
Yeah, yes.
That's what annoys a lot of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, both of you have covered everything there, and I echo what Bente said. You know, come the 7th of May, it's down to everybody in Somerset to vote for the Reform Party, and we can only make a difference when we've got the majority in there. And unfortunately, at the moment, the Liberal Democrats, they control the narrative.
John, you something to add?
Yeah. But a council isn't only about highways and transport and things like that, but it's also about looking after elderly people as well, and also our children in care as well. So there are several sides to it, and I don't want us to forget that that's also a very important side of what we do.
Yeah, but that's statutory. You can't avoid that.
Yeah, and statutory duties is another difficult thing, because instead of saying, oh, you've got to have 4 of those and 1 of those and 2 of those, it's the wording of statutory duty is things like due consideration should be made, adequate supply should be. So it's not always straightforward what is statutory and what isn't, and where that line lies. So it's much better to look at it in doing the best job you can and doing the most efficient job you can and getting the most value out of every pound that you get in.
Okay, there's a gentleman at the back, sir.
Yes, what I'd like to say is the clarity of what is spent on where that people need. What frightens me, or what worries me at the moment, is why I came to reform in the first place, is the fact that local and national governments seem to think that the money belongs to them and they will do what they want when they want them. And there's no consultation. Nobody tells you how they come to these decisions. And I'm also sure that a lot of stuff that gets done is it's not about the job you can do, it's about who you know. And that all has to stop, and that's what I want to see stop with reform. Stop using the money as if it was your own. It's not. That's not aimed at you, but this is aimed at what we have at the moment. That's what I'd like to see change.
And a lot of that changed when the Conservative amalgamated Mendip into Somerset. A lot of the decisions now are more centralised rather than local. So I completely agree and echo what you've just said there.
Yeah, I fully agree with what you're saying as well. But it is difficult. It is very difficult to get them to want to listen to us and want to listen to the taxpayers, because the taxpayers is their money, and it's the only money they got. The same for the government; they only got taxpayers' money, and not, a precious few of them will accept that is a fact.
Yeah, I was just going to say on that point, imagine if we had, which I'm sure we're going to at the next general election, we have a UK reform government in Westminster led by Nigel Farage, and we're left down here with the Liberal Democrats. And we don't get the chance to take the most opportunity out of that. We need to make sure that we've got a reform administration in Somerset. Absolutely. So when we've got that reform administration in Westminster, we've got a direct line, and we can get the best value we can get for Somerset. So it's vitally important, and it will be a reform government in Westminster. If you look at the polls for the last 2 years, that's what's going to happen. So we've got to make sure that we do our bit down here, and we make sure that for reform are running Somerset Council, you know, for all the residents, and we make sure that we get the maximum value out of Westminster that we can.
There's a gentleman here.
Experience do you have? What skills have you acquired from those jobs, and how can they be best put to use to help the residents of Somerset and Mendip?
Yeah, that's a good question. I come in the hospitality sector myself, so I run a holiday park over in Devon. It's a bit of a commute, but I enjoy working in Devon. I enjoy the hospitality sector. I suppose for me, it comes from the business sense. In one of my videos, I spoke about the triangle of success, and I put that into the sector that I'm in now. So you start off with your council tax, which you are the engine that drives the council. It's your money. You elect the people that are in charge of your money, and then through that, it comes down to how they spend your money. And if that works in a coherent way, you've got the triangle of success. And it's the same in the hospitality sector. So for me, it's making sure that that engine is driven in the right direction, because at the moment it's not with the Liberal Democrats. So that's what I would put.
Gentleman over here. Yes, you again, sir. Yeah.
This is more of a national. Did you have a question? In fact, when the Tories went wrong when they privatised things, because they let the private companies mark their own homework. And we wouldn't have pollution in the rivers and everything else now if it had been the environmental agencies marking what those privatised businesses do. Do you envisage that you can make sure that you're not marking your homework? In other words, you're getting somebody outside who is making sure that you do your jobs properly. Because I think this is where all the waste money comes in, because you're allowed to, not you, but councils are allowed to get away with things because they're marking their own homework.
Just to say, John, I mean, just to add to that, Ofwat, take the water companies, were an example, don't seem to have been doing their job, and they don't seem to have been paying attention to the actual regulatory financial shenanigans that were going on. Is that something?
Yeah, I think what it is, it's the operation of Westminster and the civil servants and the way that it works. It doesn't seem to work. I can only talk from personally what I've done in the council as well. I was in charge of highways when I built Junction 25 at Taunton. And I used consultants then, but for project management. So rather than the council overseeing it or the contractor themselves overseeing it, I got a direct independent oversight of that project, because it was £18 million, not 19 million pounds, and make sure that it was delivered on time and on budget at the quality that was needed. So it's very important that you have that expert oversight, and it's not down to just civil servants, or it's not down to just politicians as well. So, because I don't think the answer is either you can have bad nationalised and good nationalised, and you can have bad privatised and good privatised, and it's about how you do that. And when it comes to things like oil and petrol and fuel and gas, the energy price is very important. No successful country in the world has a high energy price, and we got the highest in the world. And it's just such a simple thing I was in Taiwan. Going to do some meetings with the Taiwanese, and they are absolutely particular. You've got to have cheap energy and a good water supply, and then you can move your industry and everything forwards. Without that, you can't. But I'm not sure if it's privatised or nationalised. It's just about doing it well for me.
Okay, Bente.
I'm from Denmark, and in Denmark, sometimes we only pay a tenth of 4 penny for our gas and electricity. We have got over 3 million of 5.6 million in full employment. That is, the country runs smoothly. They decide, and they always have, although they're a member of the EU, has had has had a say in what people come and live in their country. So I think that if only United Kingdom could find a way to at least start lowering the prices for gas and electricity for the businesses, encourage the businesses to employ more people. We have got to have young people working and not have 54% of them on benefits. We need to change the whole country, and I'm sorry, as a Somerset councillor, I cannot change anything, but I wish it should be able to be done. But it has got to come now from reform in government.
Greg?
And that's what I believe.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it all comes down to this net zero that they're imposing on us all. And I think until that's nationally rectified by the reform government, I'm afraid we're all going to be suffering the consequences of that. So,
This gentleman here has a question.
I can actually tell you what's going on with water, because I've been looking into it myself. It's equity bankers have bought out the water companies, and they're draining, if you pardon the pun, they're draining all the income from it, all the everybody's paying their water bills, and they're taking that revenue, taking profits first, and then spinning out or trying to thin out whatever's left to provide a service, and they're clearly not providing that service. So I'm capitalist by nature, but I would say we've got to bring the water companies into government control.
But I understand that's a fait accompli. That's already happened, hasn't it? Like the money's gone, and they've resold.
The equity bankers are still dragging money out of these companies.
Oh, okay.
We've got to keep wholesale control of any of the utilities, even if it's a railway, where the private investors are getting paid before the reinvestment is getting taken care of.
Right.
And that's why it went wrong.
Right.
That's what's going wrong. And it's all about commercial management.
Right.
And just on the railways, because I had a bit to do with railways in my time, wherever, the peninsula, and that's from Bristol down to Cornwall, is known as Diesel Island. When the government talk, when they go there, because we're the only place in the country that hasn't had any electrification. So we're the last on the list again. So that's why it's important that when we get a reform government, we also have a reform in Somerset as well, because that's what happens. Everyone, I've been to these national things when I was doing the highways and transport, you hear about the Midlands engine, the Northern Powerhouse, the London this, and they're all getting money and everything else like that. And we should have some here. You know, we should have investment in our infrastructure here in the peninsula. You know, not just the odd bit here and there, because we've had a little bit, but not to the level that they had in the metropolitans all over the rest of the country. They need to make sure that we're treated a little bit well as well.
You, sir, again, yeah.
Yes, hello then, Richard Harborn again. So there's a couple of there's two main things that are soaking up a massive amount of money. And you probably know this, but it's adult social care and special educational needs. These are the two things that even the Liberal Democrats have noticed that it's sucking the whole county dry. We spent the bill is 262 million a year for adult social care. Now, I'd speak with total respect and understanding here. My mother died a couple of years ago, and she was being kept alive way beyond her wishes by her carers. And eventually, we had to change the situation, but it was difficult. And when I had the opportunity to go around social care homes, adult social care homes in Taunton, looking for the right place for my mother. And I was horrified about what was going on there. There's about 2,000, give or take 100 or so, I don't know, but around about 2,000 adults who are being kept alive way beyond what they should be. Now, we have this right to dying and things like that, and I've been through this with my mother, and they were chemically coshing her with an Alzheimer drug, so she could not say, "Stop bloody feeding me, you bastards," because that's what she wanted to say. And when we moved her, eventually she was, and they stopped her drugs because I said, "Look, don't give her any drugs. She doesn't want any." And they didn't really check, and then they stopped giving them, and she was able to shake her head because she couldn't speak anymore. But when we presented food to her, she was like, "No, no, no," like that. And she had been kept alive for about 9 months more, and it would have gone on for years. So we need to address this situation. It's a difficult one, but it needs to be addressed. How can we do that?
Yeah. First of all, you know, it's a terrible situation that you put in, and I think many of us have been in similar situations with elderly parents as well, and know how distressing it is. And it is true, the population is lasting longer and getting more elderly, and that of course is causing us a financial pressure. But also we've got to use the smart knowledge that's there about how we care for people, how we keep people in their homes, how we increase their quality of life and all those things. It's not my area of expertise, whatever, but it's something that I can assure you if we take over the... Yeah, exactly.
Bente,
it is very important.
Yeah.
Can I just say to you that when I was interviewed in BBC, we brought that subject was brought up, the right to die. The paperwork were lying in the government, and later it was sent off to House of Lords. The House of Lords has later amended some of it, and it went back to the government. And there it is, because now the government will not sign it off. We need the right to die. We also need to have money for our hospices, because our hospices has not got the capacity or the money anymore to take in the people who cannot be treated in a proper way at home or in... No, they can't, and nor should they have that burden either. So now we are sitting waiting for the government to accept the right to die, or we could also, as I suggested, get rid of House of Lords, because they are not elected by anybody. They are sitting there because some good political friends, some of them, has put them in there. Yes. And I was asked if I thought it would stop, and it is not going to stop, because if you want something, you can always say to your mate that provided, "Oh yeah, I'll make you a lord." They are getting £365 a day when they turn up, and they get cheap, and they get... Sorry?
What's the alternative to the House of Lords?
You have got a fully functional, publicly elected...
Exactly.
A second chamber.
You've got to have a scrutiny chamber.
You need a revising chamber.
Yeah.
Something like I said. I mean, one thing would be a second chamber.
No, it's a very good point. You've got to have a revising chamber. There's no question. It's
checks and balances.
Absolutely, and some lords do a really good job, and I'm
brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
But some of them are absolute nutcases as well.
But it's the recent. I think, but as you'll know, that I think the recent problem is certain parties have flooded the House of Lords with their cronies, not necessarily because they bring an expertise.
Or even suggesting putting Sadiq Khan in there.
I know.
The guy's wrecked London.
Yeah.
How should he be rewarded with that job?
Exactly.
It just really makes me hurt.
Yeah. So I think that idea of you've got to make it much more of an elected second chamber, but also. And this is what this
constitutional change.
The House of Lords. I think Parliament should actually be smaller. Yes. Yeah, we should reduce it by about a third, because there's too many people there. They can't even all fit.
I mean, if I can just speculate, you could, for example, have a chamber comprising, let's say, one person from each county who's elected.
Yeah.
On the half term. Yeah. And it would be against the political cycle. The Americans do this, you know.
Yeah, but also our House of Lords benefits as well, as you said, by having experts in there who wouldn't stand for election. So you've got to have a balance in there as well. So it's not an easy answer. It's something that we need to look at. I
Do
think.
not ask the taxpayers to pay £365 a day to any individual that turned up. Plus, they go up in the most poshest restaurant and they eat and they drink cheaper than what we can find a cheap restaurant for.
Okay.
That is despicable.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
Oh,
On
thank you.
in that
Greg,
respect.
Greg, have you got anything?
But we need something there. That's what I'm arguing.
Yeah.
But give the dying people something first.
Okay. Greg.
I think they've said everything.
Okay, there's a gentleman down there. So, I think, did you have another question?
Yeah, I sort of
And then-
brought up when
and then you,
think
yeah.
about marketing your own homework. We've got about 5 million people.
Yeah.
What it is, I'm not quite sure what the figures are. People are not actually working. And it strikes me that a lot of those people know how to work the system. And I just wonder what reform to
Three
bring
of my
in.
neighbours are milking this like ridiculously.
Something's got to be brought in so that the doctors find it easier to just sign a sick note.
Yeah.
And that there must be another way of doing this, because this is a big drain on the economy, looking after all these people, regardless of all the immigrants coming in.
Is a lot of all this the Human Rights Act? Is that what it is? You think? Is the Human Rights Act behind a lot of this? The Human Rights Act, because it gives people rights.
Buying votes. Basically,
Okay.
It's bribery.
No, hang on.
Pure and simple.
Okay, do you want to say anything in response to that?
Well, to be honest with you, I think the audience has almost answered itself. And we're all sort of in agreement, which is fantastic. I mean, I don't want to stop that happening.
The gentleman at the back, so in the red T-shirt.
Sort of going back to what I said, but every problem that everybody, or almost every problem that everybody brings, and they're all good ones, but what has happened in the past 20 years is everything that is called a service is now a business. And that's the big distinction.
Yeah,
We need a government that needs to be strong enough to question it all and say, look, you're providing a service, it's just not a business for you. What are you going to give us? This is what's happened. It was fights here over the last 20 years. It's now gone from services to businesses.
Plus, it should be the police force, not the police service, because it's a force. It's there to uphold the law. Simple as. But
And I think law and order is one of the things that we didn't used to see in Somerset as a really big problem, but now I think it touches us all: the shoplifting and the supermarket theft and the drug use and everything else like that. Years ago, it wouldn't have touched us down here in Somerset, and it shouldn't touch us down here in Somerset, but it does, and so that's something that really needs to be addressed.
There's a small dry cleaners in Wellington who used to have the rack for the clothes that day in the front of the shop, while they work in the back of the shop. And you'd have to take that rack out and put it in the back of the shop because people were coming in and helping themselves to the clothes.
Yeah.
That's a tiny dry cleaners in the middle of Wellington. We've done it that way for forever.
because we used to get
that's driven by
trusted
drugs.
But they can't do anything about it because
Most of
that
it's driven
security
by
guard
drugs.
was sacked at Waitrose for stopping the shoplifter.
Yeah, it does need sorting out, and as soon as we get Nigel Farage as the Prime Minister, I'm sure it's the best chance that we've got, and the best chance we've had for years. Yeah, exactly.
You've got to look after the petty crime, otherwise they just get emboldened and then they go on.
Yeah.
So, gentleman here. So,
Neil Dowdley, could you tell me what is Reform's attitude to the West of England Combined Authority? Two-liner question. Firstly, do we get the good value for money out of it? And secondly, would Reform look to remain in it long term?
Do you know, I don't know the answer to that question. Bente, you're the leader of Somerset. Do you want to answer that one?
Not the
But
leader of
I have. But I tell you one thing that I have noticed when we've got the setup of the LEPs. You've got the Gateway LEP and the Peninsula LEPs, and the Wecker and the likes of it. Is the way that the funding comes down is very opaque and difficult to, as a small authority, like Somerset's a small authority, if we want to put in for grants, we've got to run up projects and that sort of stuff, and it might be approved, it might not approved, and that costs a lot of money to do that. Whereas if you're a big authority or a metropolitan like Manchester or Liverpool or London or something like that, you can have 6 or 7 of them. So when a grant comes along or an opportunity to get some money from central government, you've got 4 or 5 projects that might fit the grant. You could just do it like that. We haven't got that opportunity. So I think, I don't know exactly the answer to the question because I'm not an expert on that, but my want would be to make sure that we push government on the fact that we can get a funding stream as easily as the metropolitans and other places.
Bente and Greg, Bente?
Yeah, I fully agree. That would be a good idea.
I'm not going to have the expert advice for you, I'm afraid. I mean, these two are the councillors.
Gentleman at the back, sir.
On the back, obviously I'm from Weston-super-Mare, and our council, North Somerset Council, are trying to get us to join, and we're partially in the process at the moment, and I've talked to county organisers, and they feel that we shouldn't be joining because it's just more bureaucracy, and it's going to give away a lot of our power to a mayor who's going to be partially elected by all the crazy lefties in central Bristol. And we just don't want that. But the problem is our Liberal Democrat council are dragging us into it. Yeah. And if you go back, I think a year or so, Aaron Banks actually ran for West of England mayor on the basis of if he got in, he would have abolished WACA. So I think reform is actually staunchly against WACA because it just sees it as needless bureaucracy. Yeah. And it's just going to be funding put into areas where Labour and Liberal Democrat councils want the votes.
Can I add a comment to that? Because I think there's a trend, and you see this in history, where this cult of decentralisation and handing power back. One of the problems with it is that it does tend to empower local groups, and you see this in the UK, where regional governments have basically set themselves up as kind of grandstands against England, and they're all left wing. One more left-wing than the other. I read a history of the Habsburg Empire where they said once the Habsburg monarchs started allowing all the constituent members of the Austro-Hungarian Empire their own national identity, etc., they didn't just say, oh, it's great, now we have some autonomy, we have to be in the empire. They used it as a vehicle for what actually ended up as fascism in some cases. And so regional authorities, bit dodgy, my own opinion, but
It was a Blair project, though, wasn't it?
yes, it was constitutional vandalism.
All this started in '97, simple as.
So yes.
Okay, so next difficult question, I understand, and I'm not necessarily thinking you would have a good answer, but the dedicated schools grant, which covers special needs, special educational needs, is projected to be 116 million in deficit by the end of last month, 2026, March 2026. So there's a huge problem there. Obviously it could do with capital investment, because I've heard that currently private equity is building special needs schools because they've identified it as an area that they can make excessive profits. So it would really help if local authorities were able to use that ability to borrow money at a lower rate to invest in special needs schools, which are now, mandated. What's perhaps your position or feelings on that? It's a difficult question, I understand.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. yeah, exactly. No, I don't have an answer to it because that kind of money's got to be done as a central government grant. You can't just pick it. And if we didn't get that money for send, etc., for the government, that would put the council into a bankruptcy situation. So I know that's what all councils are pushing the government on. That's not just the Somerset Council thing. But all these type of situations, they seem to increase every year. The amount of money, the amount of regulation, the amount of oversight, the amount of safeguarding, the amount of this, the amount of that. And it's all, and it's the bureaucrats that get involved. And I've never been had the responsibility of that in the council when I as a councillor. My expertise is on the highways and transport side and on the fire service side as well. And I've not been on that side, so I don't have the detailed knowledge of that. And the council is so complicated and so big. You have a job to know it all about every single part of the council, if I'm honest with you. But I can assure you, if we do end up running the Somerset Council as we want to, we shall have people within reform that know exactly the best way to go about that, and we shall make sure that we get the right people in the right position so we can get the right outcome. And it won't be me, by the way.
I can just respond to that. One of the ways that I'm getting this information, and it's very accurate information, and it's quite quickly, is I'm using a very high-powered AI brain that does web searches and data searches and gives me information within a minute or two. What would be, would you be interested in that, something similar, or do you use something similar? Because AI super brains now are coming on the market and they're going to change local.
What are you using?
AI shouldn't be trusted, seriously.
Okay.
It trawls from the internet. So
No.
if somebody puts a lie on the internet.
No. This is private.
You have to check it, of
private
course.
internet.
You have to check it,
You upload private information. So it's not open AI. It's private AI.
So who chooses what information you can get?
You can choose it.
That's
but
what I mean.
Also, it
So
does
you
go
can
on the
choose it.
internet and it does check from so legitimate sources.
We do.
You can't possibly know that.
So
if you can check
this is saying giving the references as to where the information's coming from.
I've given references on something. I've had an iPhone for 20 years. I don't know how it works. That's AI for you. You cannot possibly know that. It can give references.
I think
I've worked in IT. Seriously, I wouldn't trust AI a dot.
I did some work in regulation of AI in Brussels actually, some years ago. And I think one of the things you would say is that I use an AI for various things. But the point is, I check everything. If it says these papers say X, Y, and Z, you go and you check do the papers exist and do they say that. You have to check everything. But it's a good prompt.
There's a book out called Superintelligence by Nick Foster, and that's all you need to know about AI. That's 10 years.
It has a very powerful use there.
Do you know what?
Don't get me wrong.
I would agree to some degree with that, because I do use AI as well. But it depends how you use AI. So, for instance, we use AI when it comes to video shorts and, using that as a means to increase our social presence. But I think using AI as a means of information, I think, needs to be limited. I think taken with a pinch of salt. You need to have the correct people in the right job who knows what they're talking about rather than purely on
Can we go
AI.
on to the lady that is sitting there waiting?
Please, yes, please.
They're desperate for someone to trust, some institution that can be trusted, and that's what we are all lacking. We need people with credibility
It used to be the BBC, didn't it?
Well, I can say to it, loads of people,
Universities, BBC, John.
That's what people are desperate for, and I think somehow if reform does get in, it's going to have to find a way of engaging people and enabling that trust to somehow be established. It's never going to happen with the liberal left.
Thank you.
I can just see this all falling apart because they pull everyone to the left.
No, and you make a very good point. And I think the first place to start is when you take over a government in Westminster or you take over an administration in Somerset, is you have to be a trusted leader. And you have to make sure, because the position of a councillor and a council leader is to set a strategic direction. It's not to run the day-to-day. And you have to make sure that your directors, your chief executive, your chief finance officers and all the other people are on board with your vision, on board with the direction, and trust you as well, because they're not going to give you all the information if they don't trust you. It's a big, big organisation. So you have to make sure that you're running it well and properly, and you're not deciding, I'll do this, I'll do that. You've got to be clear and you've got to be right. You've got to be a trusted leader. And then once you've got that's the start of it, then you've got to make sure that the interface on the ground is also trusted as well. I don't think you can do it in 5 minutes. I think you've got to set up a culture of trusted leadership. Yeah.
What I mean by that is that, unfortunately, when I was town councillor in Shepton, 60 years ago, in those days, we could actually tell the town clerk what we wanted to happen. Now, I take the line, perhaps incorrectly, that the civil servants, inverted commas, tell the councillors what to do. And that is totally wrong, and I hope the reform will get it back to a situation where you are in charge, not a whole lot of...
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Yeah, no, that's fine. Understand you completely, but that is what has happened. The staff is running the show. Yeah, they are, and we can't. Yeah, and it's very difficult because one of the best way to shut us down is to that they will not come back to you. You got a problem, you send off, they will not come back. You then end up going to the chief executive and then say, I want an answer now. And I have suggested now that some of the areas of jobs that they stop having just all women. Because what is happening now is they're bickering. Beep, 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 beep. And they all have got the same haircut. Well, I'm sorry.
This speaks to the question, to the question the lady asked here, which is the decline.
Send an email to a councillor through the council website, invariably may not get through.
Yeah.
So invariably, at the end of the day, you have to know your councillor's private email address. You have to actually make contact with that councillor.
So
everything about me is public. Where I live.
I'm not talking about you, Bente, I'm talking about...
No, yeah, but in general, yeah.
I know from experience that they do filter out emails.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say, like, the lady here has mentioned the decline of confidence in institutions, decline in trust in institutions. And to what do you attribute that? Is that DEI? You know, what has changed institutions where they're no longer interested in doing what they were set up to do, they're now doing other things?
Yeah, I can't answer. I don't know.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think instead of concentrating on the output, which is the service, it's like you mentioned the police force and the service. You know, you're either when you run an authority, and I can only speak about because I run the Fire and Rescue Authority, which is that you've got basically two jobs, and you have to think about it like this. You're either managing the risk to the public, which is what you should be doing, or you're managing the service. Make sure everybody's, got a pay rise and everybody's got a brand new, whatever it may be, right? But what we should be doing is managing the output and not managing the service, not managing it as a blob. Making sure you're concentrating on the output. And that's why it's always good, when we mentioned earlier, to have in your mind when you're doing this job, is make sure that you get the best value for every pound of taxpayers' money. So you're concentrating on that output, not concentrating on managing the internal workings of a huge 3,000 employee operation.
Greg, any comment?
I mean, in my sector where I work in hospitality, I am the manager, I have my staff. And if I don't give the right people the right job, it all falls apart. And I think when it comes to government and when it comes to the council, it's down to the council to make sure that they've got the right people in the right positions. Otherwise, it will fall apart and people feel like they're not got the value. So I agree.
Before I go to the questions back, it just seems to me that the institutional culture has changed. And somebody, I remember, commented when Barack Obama got elected and he got his Nobel Prize before he did anything. It was like, well, I'm the president. That's the achievement. Here I am. Whereas, of course, people come to my door years ago when I was living in Ireland, and they would sort of say, "I'm standing as a woman," and I'd say, "Well, I'm not going to vote for you. I want you to stand as somebody who will do things." Gentleman at the back.
I was going to say, in answer to the lady here, who I believe represents a large amount of people, a large amount of voters out there, which we need to get through to. Yeah, there's an awful lot of people that are so disillusioned with what's going on, they don't know who to vote for. This lady represents that large group, and I think you should be asking her, what do you need to do to get her to trust you?
This gentleman here, and then this gentleman. Sir.
Voter apathy is the biggest thing we've got to contend with. I did Taunton Town Council election, the turnout was 17.4%. It's that 85% that want to vote, for decades said, oh, it's not worth it because they're all the same.
Okay,
until now, they've been right.
Is there a cure for voter apathy?
I think in order to get the people to the voting system, we need to look at postal votes. You know, it's no good just trying to concentrate on people going to the...
Too easily abused. No, because, look what the Muslim bloc has been doing. You know,
I think
they don't get a choice. He will dictate to dozen people what to do.
But is that more so in Birmingham and the areas, or would that actually affect us here?
No, people need to get off their
derrieres. They do.
They
do.
Simple as we should actually abolish postal voting. It shouldn't be allowed unless you're in the forces and you're overseas and certain extreme circumstances. It shouldn't be allowed. It should be
actually
illegal.
Can I ask the councillors? I mean, what is the issue with postal voting? Because it's expanded enormously, hasn't it, in the last number of years?
The last I heard was that they think it's a brilliant idea. Me personally, I think that, as you said, they go up and vote and have a chat and
show your ID as well. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
People should have to prove that they're a British citizen and they're allowed to vote. As soon as you no ID and all this nonsense in postal voting, I could sit down and write dozens out. You know, it wouldn't be complicated.
I have two thoughts on this. One, I agree with you. There's and we've got to make sure we get the idea to make sure that everybody who's legitimately votes. But while postal votes are here, they are what people use to win elections.
So we have to use
and we don't need
win. I've got a horrible feeling we're not going to win because of it. Because it's going to get abused. Whether it be Labour, the Greens, or certain other Gaza parties.
I can tell you the Conservatives win on postal votes.
I just want to say one thing. At the last by-election we had in Shepton Mallet, a huge area did not get their postal vote out in time. And that was the postman. Sometimes my post arrived 14 days after it has been sent because it's like in the sorting. So I just wanted to make that point. You can't trust it.
Whilst discussing postal votes, some experience from the UK in the past, there is actually a real harvest there as a candidate. You can get into old people's homes, retirement complexes, just before the postal votes go out. There is the opportunity to really harvest the votes there. Speak to 20 people, you might get 20 votes. Hammer on the door, speak to 20 people, you might get 5. It's a real gold mine to scoop up.
And you're absolutely right. As I said, that's exactly what the other parties do. And while I might not agree with postal votes, while they're here, we'd be stupid not to take...
Bente.
I just want to say, yes, I have been visiting the old people's home in Shepton Mallet and sat down and spoken to people, and they have been happy and whatever. But sometimes it was very difficult to get in because the person who was sitting at the or opened the door said, no political action here.
Or unless you align with them.
No, behind you, you. No, you.
My last question will be a section 114, which is basically the council going bankrupt. It's where the central government comes in and says you can't run it. Now they've already declared a financial emergency. What's his name at the top of the Lib Dem?
Bill.
Bill, that's him. He's declared a financial emergency, and I'm estimating there's about a 40% chance that Somerset will go into a 114, section 114 administration from national government. So it will effectively be declared bankrupt. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's an effective bankruptcy, but an authority can't really go bankrupt. What happens is the commissioners come in and they run the council for you, and they cost £1,000 a day or whatever their fee happens to be, and they just do statutory duty. They don't do anything other than that. And as I said earlier, statutory duty is a difficult one to know exactly where that lands and lies, because the wording is quite opaque in a lot of cases. It's not that you need 6 of those, it's you need to pay due regard to that in the round, you know. It's that sort of thing. So yes, and it's not the fact they go bankrupt, it's the fact that somebody else comes in, takes a lot of money for running your council and just runs it on the bare bones. And it's not a good situation. And I know somebody who's been a commissioner in Tower Hamlets when they had to go in there because of the abuse of grants and everything else that was going on there.
I haven't got anything to add. I'm sorry. If I knew something, I would tell you something.
I don't think this is working, but I'm going to hold it up anyway. Yeah, but I think.
Well, sorry, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you're right, and if we carry on this path, then that's exactly where we're heading. And I think it's about cutting down our wasteful spending, and I think it's prioritising how the money is spent, and that comes down to putting the right people in the right job. And I know it's been echoed a lot, but it's about getting reform into the council.
We're going to take a final comment. So, Bente, and then you have a comment. So do you have a comment?
I wanted to ask a very quick question.
Okay, well, no, hang on. Bente, you speak first.
Oh, all right. Okay, thank you. I just want to say that one very important thing that has happened to Somerset Council is that they had 9,000. That is the figure I have come to. 9,000 staff. 9,000 staff at 25,000 a year, index-regulated pension. They have sat there for. We became a Somerset Council in 2022. They were supposed to get rid of 4,900. They have started to get rid of them mainly now. And that is far too late. Those people should, in 2020, when they realized it was going to be a unitary council, they should have been given their notice so they could work off their notice, so we didn't sit in that situation. And that is where most of the money, in my way I look at it, has gone. One of the things, yeah.
Okay, so final comment from you.
Right, I just wanted to ask your guys your opinion on this one. I mean, it comes back to what that lady was saying as well about trust. If we're going to offer illegal migrants £1,000, I'm sorry, we should be fining them £20,000. We need to actually get the trust back by actually saying, OK, we made a little bit of a mistake the other day when we said we're giving them 1,000 when the Labour are saying they're giving them 10 grand or 40 grand or whatever. We need to say, no money. We're not giving you a bloody penny. We're paying for the flight, basically, to send you back home. But, the country needs to hear that. We need to, if you pardon the analogy, grow a pair, and show that actually we mean this, and we mean it now.
Yeah.
And anyone that's here for the last 15 whatever years, and if they're still illegal, sorry, you can apply to be legal or you bugger off. It's as simple as that. We need to get the trust back in people saying this firmly.
Yeah, and I think, and I agree with you. And what I think the reason why it was being said is this: we need to make sure that we get the illegal immigrants out as fast as we can, and we need to get that moving so people can see that's actually being done. And if you've got a situation where you've got somebody that might take you 2-3 months to find, and then we'll throw them out, or with £1,000 they'll go today. I think you could possibly
again and do it again.
Yeah, you could possibly
take the mickey out.
You could possibly make the argument. I don't disagree with you, but I think that's what they were. I think that's why it was being done, so to expedite the situation at a much faster speed.
I think they're really fundamentally wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. I think they need to rethink this one.
Anybody else of the panel?
Change the law.
Yeah.
Of course.
I think it comes down to leaving the ECHU.
ECHR,
I think the ECHR, I think it comes down to that. I think at the point of them coming over,
Just ignore it. Loads of other countries just ignore it.
they do.
Final comment from Bente.
Yes, you
Final
are
comment from Bente.
absolutely correct. Other countries are doing it. They are ignoring it. And I come from one of those countries that are ignoring it.
This
Yeah.
international law rubbish.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Don't give them an ounce
No.
of time
Yeah.
to
Okay.
say, fuck off.
He's going to get rid of you, CHR.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you all for coming.
We should have ended up on a really unitary. We ended up with a little
Thank you
bit.
for your questions. And we're having a raffle. We're having a raffle because you bought tickets and we want to give away the stuff at the back. And I want to thank also on behalf of Wales and Mendip Hills and Frumeney Somerset. So thank you for coming. I want to thank our councillors and our panel, Bente Hind and John Cook-Woodman, and our candidate Greg Stone.
Thank you very much.
Many thanks. We're going to do the raffle now. So, right, who's going to pick the number? Not me.